This is a video series on the misunderstood dangers of too much iron in the body, and for older people the risk of diseases and early death as a result. Today we're on holiday in Nimbin in a bamboo hut by a small lake, basically in the middle of nowhere. The good thing is we actually have internet, and electricity and running water. In video 3 I explained about not eating iron additives in food and how widespread adding iron because of misguided approach to anemia or for the purpose of food colouring, e.g. iron oxide to make food look brown, used by vegetarian manufacturers to make food that look like meat but made of vegetables. In this video I talk about how to eat without absorbing too much iron. This information is for all iron overload sufferers, i.e. probably most people, and particularly ones of older age. And it doesn't mean just hemochromatosis sufferers such as myself. So many foods have natural levels of iron. We've all been told about spinach having lots of iron and red meat does have very high levels of iron. Meat has something called heme iron and vegetables have non-heme iron. Heme iron is easily absorbed by the body and non-heme iron is not easily absorbed at all. So the reality is that it's red meat and in particular liver, pate, meat sausages that will have the highest quantities of absorbable iron. So I recommend trying to avoid those things. But one trick, if you do fancy a nice juicy steak, is to drink a glass of milk with it. The calcium in the milk stops the absorption of the iron, so the hope would be much of the iron passes through without going into the body or into the bloodstream. The converse of milk is vitamin C. Vitamin C builds up absorption of iron. So, for example, having orange juice for breakfast with bacon and eggs is actually a really bad idea. If you want to drink orange juice, do it in a period when you're not actually eating food and there's no food in your stomach. If you do suffer from iron overload, then your liver will be weakened by excessive iron, leading to dangers of cirrhosis. So drinking alcohol is actually, unfortunately, a bad idea. I'd recommend reducing or cutting out alcohol altogether, if you've got iron overload. I've stopped drinking for now on social occasions. I drink alcohol-free beer, which I've discovered can be remarkably nice and tastes very little different from the real thing. By the way, for now, I said for now, and it's for now because I'm still being treated, and as soon as my iron levels are what's called managed, i.e. they take it down to 50, once it's got to 50, then my liver should have much less iron in it, and I should be able to drink again. So I look forward to that. Okay, so that's diet because of iron directly. But let's now go deeper into diet with the effects of aging. Iron overload speeds up the aging process. It causes oxidation and extensive cell damage and basically makes everything older. Cell damage and aging are the same thing. Diseases of aging are caused by cell damage, and iron overload causes cell damage. So it makes sense to look at the diet to slow aging and cell damage and encourage the body to repair itself. If the iron overload has damaged your body, we'll see how it can be repaired. There has been significant work done on aging, diets and aging, supplements and strategies for when to eat, and these studies have been done quite recently in the last few years. Some have even claimed age reversal. I encourage you to watch some of them, but concentrate on those people who have either medical doctors or biochemists. Also, this is an area where there is not full agreement and with the core medical system. Historically, we've been told that fat and cholesterol are bad, and we've been encouraged to eat low-fat, high-carb diets. There is a new group of people who say high fat, low carb is much better. These people are called the keto diet people, and you'll see lots of videos on YouTube made by these people. My own view is that these two groups are extremes of two very different dietary approaches. Having investigated both arguments extensively, I see some merit in both approaches, but the keto diet has some very powerful arguments, and in particular associated with keto diet is something called intermittent fasting, which I find is also a very compelling approach, which for me has worked very well. I've both lost weight because of it, and this also, the aging researchers have also discovered, does do some age reversal. One very interesting approach is that of dealing with cholesterol. It turns out that things are not as simple as it first appears. The traditional approach is high cholesterol is bad and low cholesterol is good. But cholesterol is an essential component of all cells. It's needed to make new healthy cells. Then, to explain things more, people say there's good cholesterol and bad cholesterol. This is an oversimplification, because for good cholesterol people mean HDL, and for bad cholesterol they mean LDL. Neither of these are actually cholesterol, they are transport mechanisms for cholesterol. You also have people historically saying saturated fats are bad and unsaturated fats are good. But the latest thoughts are saturated fats are essential because they give you longer chain cholesterol, which is better for you. In fact, the keto group think that saturated fats, and especially coconut butter, is very good for you. The latest aging research has shown it's the oxides of cholesterol which are doing damage to the arteries and the heart. For me, this research is actually explaining what's really going on here. My conclusion is cholesterol and saturated fats really are good for you if there is no oxidative stress in the body. If the cholesterol starts to oxidize, then that is when the high cholesterol may be an issue. If you agree or disagree with this, let me know in the comments. However, the keto diet mixed with intermittent fasting is a very compelling concept and agreed by many aging researchers. But my view is moderation is needed even in the keto diet. I like the idea of moving in and out of ketosis, and the thought is that it's the change between the two which is the beneficial effect. Certainly, intermittent fasting causes something called autophagy. This is where old and new cells have their biochemical material returned in order to make new healthy cells. This is effectively repair, and is actually basically what age reversal is. Let's step briefly into intermittent fasting. There are two ways to do it. One is called 2-5 method, where you eat very little for 2 days and then eat whatever you want for the remaining 5 days in any 1 week. This does work, but the 2 days fasting is very uncomfortable, and I get headaches if I do it, and in fact the headaches are caused by going into ketosis. The other much more comfortable approach is time-limited fasting, and if you think about it, this is exactly what we've always done, is we eat late at night, go to bed, and we wake up in the morning and have breakfast. Breakfast meaning breaking a fast. But the rules of intermittent time-limited fasting are to limit the number of hours of eating as much as possible. So, for example, if you eat between 8 AM to 6 PM, that's 10 hours, and nothing after that, that would be ideal. As I say, this is much more traditional and much more like breakfast. An add-on to this is to skip a couple of meals each week in addition. The idea of keto is to fill up on fat and protein with few carbs, i.e. little white rice, potato or sugar, as possible. Note that little does not mean none. I personally still eat carbs, but less, and I try to avoid sugar totally. In order to fill up with protein and fatty foods, such I use eggs and cheese, it's important to understand that this is not a low-calorie diet. The low-calorie approach has been overdone over the years. The idea with keto is that the keto diet is still to eat, and to eat with a variety of foods. In particular, things like cruciferous green vegetables, that's the sort of crunchy ones. Avocados are highly recommended. I like avocados, but I struggle with things like kale, to be honest. So, the reason for talking about aging and age reversal was because iron overload causes premature aging and diseases of aging. It does so via oxidation. Thus, a quick look at antioxidants. Strangely, all the strongly coloured fruits and vegetables are very good antioxidants. The peel of red apples, blueberries, avocados are all great antioxidants. Now, let's consider about taking supplements. I already talked about IP6, which is made from the husks of rice, as a chelator of iron. For me it worked, but the problem was it chelates magnesium, zinc and copper as well. And removing those is not actually a good idea, because we need those minerals in small amounts too. This is why venesection is a better approach, because it concentrates on just removing iron. Then, there are supplements for age reversal. One researcher called David Sinclair has spent years looking at aging in yeast and later in mice. The reason for using yeast is that it's possible to try effects in months rather than years. In this way, a group of genes called sirtuins have been discovered, which can be turned on and off with supplements. The best known supplement for this is resveratrol, which is made from red wine. It's the colour of red wine. It produces the colour. It switches on the anti-aging genes, the sirtuin genes. Another supplement is vitamin B3 and its related chemicals called niacin, nicotinamide riboside, and another one called NMN, are all related supplements which have shown to have strong age reversal in mice, and there is some evidence that the same can happen in humans, and trials are actually going on at the moment. The problem I had when taking resveratrol and niacin, whilst at the same time undergoing venesection, is it seemed to have caused my iron from my organs to be released faster, and again raise my iron levels and ferritin levels in the blood, or actually it caused it to fall slower, and it increased my transferrin saturation level. My guess is that the organs were being repaired, and so in doing so were releasing iron. Now, I have no strong evidence for this, but just a feeling that it is actually what happened. After all, I noted, when my iron level increases, I get a stiff neck and stiff back. Iron affects the joints. I recommend taking those things after completion of the venesection treatment, but not during venesection. Another drug which is mentioned a lot for anti-aging is metformin. But the problem with metformin is it's a prescribed drug in most countries. It's used for diabetics and for cancer treatment. It is not generally available. However, many hemochromatosis sufferers with iron overload suffer from diabetes, and for them metformin is a good option. For those people who have iron overload but don't have hemochromatosis, and therefore will not be allowed to have venesection, that's at least in the UK. I really don't know what happens in other countries. Please leave your comments on what happens in your country in the comments. I'd recommend taking supplements on a non-daily basis. so the effects are not strong. Also, as explained in an earlier video, losing weight during keto diet also seemed to cause an increase in ferritin levels, so you have to be careful how you do this. Finally, exercise and heat changes. The keto approach is not to do excessive exercise. It is to do short, sharp exercise, and it is the recovery process which does you the benefit. Similarly, they recommend saunas and cold pool or hot and then cold showers to shock the body into forcing it into this autophagy mode. I've yet to try such things. I don't fancy a cold shower, basically. One more thing to discuss is leaky gut syndrome, causing iron overload. So this would affect hemochromatosis and non-hemochromatosis people. Now, leaky gut syndrome is discussed a lot, but it is not fully accepted as a real thing by the whole medical community. So let's explain leaky gut syndrome. It's a state of the stomach where, because of eating gluten, the stomach opens up, letting undigested food into the bloodstream, and in this way iron and other things can go across into the blood, circumventing the control mechanisms for stopping the absorption of iron, which is normally done using a protein called hepcidin in non-hemochromatosis people. So everyone in this process of iron absorption. But this problem of leaky gut syndrome has had little investigation. If this problem does exist, using gluten-free food would help. In fact, my experience of gluten-free is that some gluten-free cereal don't have added iron, so this is a double benefit. When I started to eat gluten-free cereal, I felt like I had more energy. And so for me it worked. Overall, I'd recommend not jumping into a keto diet completely, but go into it and out of it. And if your weight reduces, make sure it doesn't fall too quickly. Also, gluten-free food seems to make things better. And that concludes this particular video about diet. The next video, I'll tell you about bloodletting, which is often called venesection in the UK, and therapeutic phlebotomy in the rest of the world. Bloodletting is the easiest way to reduce iron in the body, and I look forward to talking to you next time. In the meantime, please like and subscribe if these videos interest you. Thanks very much. Bye.